Let me ask you this. What separates the winners from the losers in life? What makes one person succeed while another person fails? What's the difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who give up on them? I'll tell you what it is, and it's simpler than you think. It comes down to one thing. One person learned to be the person who never quits, and the other didn't. Now here's what I want you to understand. Success isn't complicated. It really isn't. But it does require something that most people aren't willing to give. It requires you to stay in the game when everyone else is walking away. It requires you to keep showing up when showing up is the last thing you want to do. I've been studying successful people for over 40 years, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Every person who has achieved something worthwhile in their life had moments when they wanted to quit. Every single one. The millionaire wanted to quit. The champion athlete wanted to quit. The successful entrepreneur wanted to quit. But here's the thing that separates them from everyone else. They didn't. You see, most people quit right before the breakthrough. They quit when they're 3 feet from gold. They quit when the next phone call could have been the one that changed everything. They quit when the next day could have been the day their whole life turned around. I remember when I first started in business, I was broke, I was struggling, and I had every reason to quit. My friends were telling me to quit. My family was telling me to get a real job. Even I was telling myself to quit. But something inside me said, not yet, not today. And that decision to not quit that one day led to another day, and eventually led me to a life I could have never imagined. That's the power of not quitting. It compounds. Every day you don't quit adds to your strength. Every day you don't quit builds your character. Every day you don't quit moves you closer to where you want to be. But let me ask you this. Why do most people quit? What is it that makes someone throw in the towel when success might be just around the corner? The first reason people quit is comfort. They get comfortable with mediocrity. They get comfortable with less than they deserve. They get comfortable with making excuses instead of making progress. Comfort is the enemy of achievement. When you get too comfortable, you stop growing. When you stop growing, you start dying. I used to be comfortable. I was comfortable making just enough to get by. I was comfortable blaming my circumstances for my results. I was comfortable being average. But comfort wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. Comfort was keeping me stuck. The second reason people quit is fear. They're afraid of what people will think. They're afraid of failing. They're afraid of succeeding. Fear is a liar. Fear tells you that you can't do it. Fear tells you that you're not good enough. Fear tells you that you should quit while you're ahead. But here's what I learned about fear. The things you're most afraid of are usually the things you most need to do. The third reason people quit is they don't have a big enough reason to keep going. They have wishes, but they don't have reasons. They have wants, but they don't have musts. When your reasons are bigger than your excuses, you won't quit. When your why is strong enough, you'll figure out the how. Let me share something with you that changed my life. I learned that I had to become someone different if I wanted to have something different. I had to become the kind of person who doesn't quit. I had to develop that as part of my character, part of my identity. Society teaches us to quit. Think about it. How many times were you told growing up that it's okay to quit if something gets too hard? How many times were you told that you should be realistic about your dreams? How many times were you told that not everyone can be successful? But successful people think differently. They understand that quitting is not an option. They understand that every setback is a setup for a comeback. They understand that the longer you stay in the game, the better your chances of winning. Now, how do you become the person who never quits? It starts with your philosophy. Your philosophy is how you think about life. If your philosophy is that it's okay to quit when things get tough, then you'll quit when things get tough. But if your philosophy is that quitting is not an option, then you'll find a way to keep going. I developed a philosophy that says this: I will never quit on my dreams. I might change my approach. I might change my strategy. I might even change my timeline. But I will never quit on what's important to me. Your philosophy becomes your thoughts become your actions become your habits become your character, and your character determines your destiny. The person who never quits has different standards than everyone else. They have standards that say, I don't quit. They have standards that say, I keep going even when I don't feel like it. They have standards that say, I'm committed to becoming who I need to become to get what I want to get. Standards are different than goals. Goals are what you want to achieve. Standards are who you're committed to being. If your standard is to be someone who never quits, then quitting becomes impossible because it goes against who you are. Let me tell you about the discipline of daily habits. The person who never quits doesn't rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. They do what they need to do whether they feel like it or not. They show up every day. They do the work every day. They stay committed every day. Motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going. Motivation is emotional, but discipline is practical. The person who never quits has developed the discipline to keep going when the motivation runs out. You also have to be careful about who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with quitters, you'll become a quitter. If you surround yourself with people who never quit, you'll become someone who never quits. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. The people around you are either lifting you up or bringing you down. They're either encouraging you to keep going or giving you permission to quit. Choose your associations carefully because they will shape who you become. Now let me give you some practical strategies for developing persistence. First, break your big goals down into smaller steps. When you look at the whole mountain, it seems impossible to climb. But when you focus on just the next step, it becomes manageable. I learned this lesson early in my career. Instead of focusing on becoming a millionaire, I focused on earning my first $1,000. Instead of focusing on speaking to thousands of people, I focused on speaking to 10 people. Small steps lead to big result. Think about it this way. If you want to lose 50 pounds, don't focus on losing 50 pounds. Focus on losing 1 pound. If you want to build $1 million business, don't focus on the $1 million. Focus on making your first sale. When you break things down, they become achievable. The human mind can't handle overwhelming goals, but it can handle simple tasks. Give your mind something it can work with. Give it a next step that seems possible. That's how you build confidence. That's how you create momentum. Second, take consistent action every day. It doesn't have to be perfect action. It doesn't have to be massive action. But it has to be consistent action. A little bit every day adds up to a lot over time. I used to think that I had to make huge changes to get different results. But I learned that small, consistent changes create the biggest transformations. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't seem like much, but it's over 3,600 pages a year. Working out for 15 minutes a day doesn't seem like much, but it adds up to over 90 hours a year. Consistency beats intensity every time. The person who works out 15 minutes every day will be in better shape than the person who works out for 3 hours once a week. The person who reads 10 pages every day will be more knowledgeable than the person who reads for 8 hours once a month. Most people want to go from 0 to 60 overnight. They want massive results from massive action. But that's not how real change happens. Real change happens through consistent daily habits that compound over time. Here's what I want you to understand about consistency. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up. Some days you'll feel motivated, some days you won't. Some days you'll do great work, some days you'll do mediocre work. But if you show up every day, you'll make progress every day. Third, learn to handle criticism and doubt. When you commit to never quitting, people will try to talk you out of it. They'll tell you that you're being unrealistic. They'll tell you that you should be more practical. They'll tell you that not everyone can be successful. Don't let other people's limitations become your limitations. Don't let other people's fears become your fears. Don't let other people's quit mentality become your quit mentality. Here's something I learned about critics. They're usually people who quit on their own dreams. They're usually people who settled for less than they wanted. They're usually people who are afraid to try because they're afraid to fail. When someone tries to talk you out of your dreams, ask yourself this question: is this person living the life I want to live? If the answer is no, then don't take their advice. Only take advice from people who have what you want. Remember this: criticism from someone who hasn't achieved what you're trying to achieve is worthless. It's like taking swimming lessons from someone who can't swim. It's like taking financial advice from someone who's broke. Fourth, celebrate your small wins along the way. Every step forward is worth celebrating. Every day you don't quit is worth celebrating. Every small improvement is worth celebrating. Most people only celebrate the big victories, but the person who never quits celebrates the small victories too. They understand that small victories build momentum, and momentum makes everything easier. When you celebrate small wins, you're training your brain to notice progress. You're training your brain to focus on what's working instead of what's not working. You're training your brain to keep going instead of giving up. I used to only celebrate the big achievements. I thought small wins weren't worth celebrating. But I learned that small wins are the building blocks of big wins. Every big victory is made up of hundreds of small victories. Celebration doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be as simple as acknowledging your progress. It can be as simple as saying good job to yourself. It can be as simple as taking a moment to appreciate how far you've come. Fifth, learn the art of course correction without quitting. Sometimes the path you're on isn't working. Sometimes you need to change direction. But changing direction is not the same as quitting. The person who never quits is flexible in their approach, but fixed in their commitment. They adjust their methods, but never abandon their mission. Think of it like driving to a destination. If you hit a roadblock, you don't go back home, you find another route. If you get lost, you don't abandon the trip, you check your map and adjust your course. The same principle applies to your goals. If your current strategy isn't working, try a different strategy. If your current approach isn't getting results, try a different approach. But don't quit on the destination. I've had to change my approach countless times throughout my career. I've had to try new methods, learn new skills, and adapt to new circumstances. But I never quit on my commitment to success. Flexibility is a strength, not a weakness. The tree that bends with the wind survives the storm. The tree that's too rigid breaks. Be flexible in your methods, but firm in your resolve. Sixth, develop what I call mental toughness. Mental toughness isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about being disciplined with yourself. It's about doing what you need to do when you need to do it, whether you feel like it or not. Mental toughness means you keep your commitments to yourself. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. When you set a goal, you follow through. When you make a promise to yourself, you keep it. Most people break their promises to themselves more than they break their promises to others. They tell themselves they're going to wake up early. Then they hit the snooze button. They tell themselves they're going to exercise. Then they make excuses. They tell themselves they're going to work on their goals. Then they watch television instead. Mental toughness means your word to yourself is as good as your word to others. Actually, it's more important, because if you can't trust yourself, how can anyone else trust you? Seventh, learn to embrace discomfort. The person who never quits doesn't avoid difficult situations. They seek them out because they know that's where growth happens. They know that comfort is the enemy of progress. Everything you want is on the other side of discomfort. The conversation you're afraid to have, the skill you're afraid to learn, the goal you're afraid to pursue, the dream you're afraid to chase, it's all waiting for you on the other side of your comfort zone. I used to avoid discomfort at all costs. I wanted everything to be easy. I wanted everything to be comfortable. But I learned that easy doesn't build character. Comfortable doesn't create strength. If you want to become someone who never quits, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Keep a success journal. Write down your wins every day. Write down your progress every day. Write down what you learned every day. When you're tempted to quit, go back and read your journal. Remind yourself of how far you've come. Most people focus on what's not working. They focus on their failures. They focus on their mistakes. But the person who never quits focuses on what is working. They focus on their progress. They focus on their growth. Your success journal becomes proof that you're making progress even when it doesn't feel like it. It becomes evidence that you're moving forward even when the progress seems slow. It becomes a record of your journey from where you were to where you're going. Ninth, find accountability partners. Surround yourself with people who will hold you accountable to your commitments. People who won't let you quit when you want to quit. People who will remind you of your goals when you forget them. Accountability isn't about someone being hard on you. It's about someone caring enough about you to help you become who you want to become. It's about having people in your life who believe in your dreams even when you don't believe in them yourself. I've had accountability partners throughout my life, and they've made all the difference. They've kept me going when I wanted to quit. They've reminded me of my potential when I forgot it. They've helped me stay committed to my goals when commitment was difficult. And when you become the person who never quits, everything changes. Your reputation changes. People start to see you as someone they can count on. Someone who follows through, someone who keeps their word. Your opportunities change. People want to do business with people who don't quit. They want to invest in people who don't quit. They want to partner with people who don't quit. Your results change. The longer you stay in the game, the better you get. The better you get, the better your results become. It's a cycle that builds on itself. Your confidence changes. Every time you don't quit when you want to quit, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. You build confidence in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. Your character changes. Persistence builds character like nothing else can. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you commitment. It teaches you that you can count on yourself. But here's what happens when you truly become the person who never quits. You develop what I call an unstoppable mindset. This isn't just positive thinking. This isn't just motivation. This is a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your capabilities. The person with an unstoppable mindset doesn't see obstacles as roadblocks. They see obstacles as opportunities to grow stronger. They don't see setbacks as failures. They see setbacks as setups for comebacks. They don't see challenges as problems. They see challenges as chances to prove what they're made of. I remember a time in my life when everything seemed to be going wrong. My business was struggling. My finances were tight. My confidence was shaking. I had every reason to quit. Every logical reason to walk away. But instead of quitting, I used that difficult time to strengthen my resolve. That's when I learned that your greatest strength is discovered in your greatest struggle. Your biggest breakthrough often comes right after your biggest breakdown. Your finest hour often comes in your darkest moment. The person who never quits understands that success isn't about avoiding failure. Success is about outlasting failure. It's about staying in the game long enough for things to turn around. It's about having the faith to keep going when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let me tell you about the compound effect of not quitting. Every day you don't quit, you're building something. You're building skills, you're building relationships, you're building reputation, you're building character, and all of these things compound over time. 10 years from now, if you become the person who never quits, you won't just have achieved your goals. You'll have become someone completely different. You'll have developed capabilities you didn't know you had. You'll have created a life you couldn't have imagined when you started. But here's what's really amazing. When you become the person who never quits, you inspire others to never quit. Your children see your example and learn that quitting isn't an option. Your friends see your persistence and find their own strength to keep going. You become a force for good in the world. You become proof that it's possible to overcome obstacles. You become living evidence that dreams can come true if you just don't quit. Your persistence gives others permission to persist. Your strength gives others permission to be strong. Your refusal to quit gives others permission to keep going when they want to give up. Think about the people who never quit on you. Think about the teachers who didn't give up on you when you were struggling. Think about the mentors who kept believing in you when you didn't believe in yourself. Think about the family members who stood by you when everyone else walked away. Those people changed your life because they refused to quit on you. Now it's your turn. It's your turn to be the person who doesn't quit. It's your turn to be the person who keeps going when everyone else gives up. It's your turn to be the person who proves that anything is possible if you just don't quit. Let me leave you with this thought. 20 years from now, you're going to be somewhere. The question is, where? You can be exactly where you are today, looking back with regret at all the times you quit. Or you can be living the life of your dreams, grateful that you learned to be the person who never quits. The choice is yours. But I'm telling you, if you make the decision today to become the person who never quits, your life will never be the same. The world needs more people who don't quit. The world needs more people who keep going when the going gets tough. The world needs more people who prove that persistence pays off. Your future self is counting on the decision you make today. Don't let them down. Be the person who never quits and create the life you've always wanted. The time is now. The place is here. The person is you. Make the decision. Make the commitment. Become the person who never quits and change your life forever. But let me tell you something else about becoming the person who never quits. It's not just about achieving your goals. It's about who you become in the process. The goals you achieve are important, but the person you become while achieving them is even more important. The person who never quits becomes someone others look up to. They become someone others turn to for advice. They become someone others want to be around because they represent what's possible when you refuse to give up. But here's what I want you to understand about this transformation. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens one day at a time. It happens one decision at a time. It happens one moment of not quitting at a time. Every time you choose to keep going instead of giving up, you're building this new identity. Every time you push through when you want to quit, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. Every time you stay committed when commitment is hard, you're becoming the person who never quits. And here's the beautiful thing about this process. Once you truly become this person, quitting becomes impossible. Not because you can't quit, but because quitting goes against who you are. It goes against your identity. It goes against your character. The person who never quits doesn't have to force themselves to keep going. They keep going because that's who they are. They don't have to motivate themselves to persist. They persist because persistence is part of their nature. This is the ultimate goal. To become someone for whom quitting is not an option. To become someone whose default response to challenges is to keep going. To become someone who others know they can count on because giving up is not in their vocabulary. I want you to think about the legacy you're creating. Every time you quit, you're teaching someone that it's okay to quit. Every time you give up, you're showing someone that giving up is acceptable. But every time you refuse to quit, you're setting an example that can change someone's life. Your children are watching, your friends are watching, your co-workers are watching, complete strangers are watching, and they're learning from your example. They're learning whether it's okay to quit when things get tough or whether they should keep going no matter what. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Do you want to be remembered as someone who gave up when things got difficult? Or do you want to be remembered as someone who never quit no matter how hard things got? The choice is yours, and the time to make that choice is now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect, now. Start where you are. Use what you have, do what you can. But most importantly, decide right now that you will never quit on what matters to you. Your future is not determined by your past. Your future is not determined by your circumstances. Your future is not determined by what others think you can or cannot do. Your future is determined by the decision you make right now about who you're going to become. Become the person who never quits, and watch as your entire life transforms. Watch as opportunities open up for you. Watch as people begin to see you differently. Watch as you begin to see yourself differently. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your opportunity to decide once and for all that you will be the person who never quits. Take it, embrace it, live it, and create the extraordinary life you deserve.